A waterfall bleeds from a glacier in Antarctica. Not red-tinted, not rust-colored, blood red, gushing out of solid white ice onto a frozen valley floor in one of the coldest, most lifeless places on Earth. For over a century, nobody could explain where the color came from or how liquid could even exist inside ice that never gets above freezing. Explorers who found it assumed it was algae. They were wrong. The real answer took scientists more than 100 years, submarine-grade radar, and a small army of microbiologists to uncover, and it turns out this crimson stain is hiding one of the strangest ecosystems ever found on the planet. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what's bleeding out of that glacier, and why NASA is watching it more closely than almost anywhere else on Earth. In 1911, a geologist named Griffith Taylor was mapping a remote stretch of Antarctica now called the Taylor Valley. Surrounded by nothing but rock, ice, and silence, he came across something that made no sense. A stain of deep red seeping out of the snout of a glacier and spilling across the white landscape like a wound. He assumed red algae was to blame, and for decades, that explanation stuck. It was a reasonable guess. Algae blooms really do turn water red in some parts of the world. But nobody actually tested the theory properly for almost 100 years. The stain kept flowing, slowly, unpredictably, always the same shocking color, in a valley so dry and so cold that almost nothing grows there at all. It would take modern chemistry to reveal that Taylor's first guess was completely wrong. When researchers finally analyzed the liquid in the 2000s, they found no algae at all. The red color came from iron. The water flowing out of the glacier is packed with dissolved iron, and the moment it touches air, that iron rusts almost instantly, the same chemical reaction that turns an old nail orange. Essentially, the glacier is bleeding rust. But that raised a bigger question. Where was an iron-rich liquid coming from, inside a glacier, in a valley with no rivers, no rainfall, and almost no life? The dry valleys of Antarctica are technically a desert, one of the driest places on the planet. Whatever was feeding this flow had to be trapped somewhere deep inside the ice itself, cut off from the outside world for an unknown, and possibly enormous, length of time. The source turned out to be a pocket of ancient seawater, trapped beneath the Taylor Glacier an estimated 1 to 2 million years ago, when the region still connected to the ocean. As the glacier grew and sealed over it, that water was locked away in total darkness, cut off from sunlight, oxygen, and the rest of the planet. Over time it became extraordinarily salty, several times saltier than the ocean above it, because salt lowers the freezing point of water. That single detail is the reason this brine has never frozen solid, even sitting inside ice that stays around minus 17 degrees Celsius. It stayed liquid, sealed, forgotten, for longer than modern humans have existed as a species, quietly reacting with the iron-rich rock around it the entire time. Here's the part that stunned scientists most. That trapped brine isn't empty. It's full of living microbes, an entire ecosystem that has survived in absolute darkness, in freezy salt water with almost no oxygen, for over 1 million years. With no sunlight, these organisms couldn't rely on photosynthesis like nearly every other food chain on Earth. Instead, researchers found they survive by chemically converting sulfate compounds in the water, using the iron itself as part of their energy cycle. It's an entirely separate way of powering life, one that doesn't need the sun at all. Sealed inside a glacier, this may be one of the oldest continuously isolated ecosystems ever discovered, a self-contained biological world that has been quietly running its own chemistry, undisturbed, since long before the last ice age even began. But one mystery remained. How does water trap that deep actually reach the surface? In 2015, scientists flew radar equipment over the glacier to trace it, and found something remarkable. A hidden network of cracks and channels threading all the way through nearly 400 meters of solid ice, acting like natural plumbing. The extreme saltiness of the brine keeps it liquid even as it travels through ice colder than a household freezer, slowly forcing its way upward through fractures in the glacier under pressure. When it finally reaches the surface and meets oxygen for the first time in over 1 million years, the iron inside reacts instantly, and the water turns blood red right before it hits the snow. It isn't a wound. It's a chemical reaction, over 1 million years in the making, finally hitting air. This is exactly why NASA and other space agencies keep studying blood falls so closely. Some of the most promising places to search for alien life in our solar system are icy moons like Europa and Enceladus, worlds sealed under kilometers of ice, with liquid oceans hidden underneath, and no sunlight reaching in. Blood Falls is essentially a working model of that exact environment, right here on Earth. If life can survive for over 1 million years in total darkness, in freezing salt water, using only chemistry instead of sunlight, then the assumption that life needs sun and warmth to exist starts to look far too narrow. Every sample pulled from that crimson flow gets studied not just as an Antarctic curiosity, but as a rehearsal for what astrobiologists might one day find beneath the ice of another world entirely. So the glacier was never really bleeding. It was releasing a message sealed 1 million years ago, proof that life can persist in places we once assumed were completely dead. A frozen desert in Antarctica turned out to be hiding an ocean's memory, still chemically alive, still reacting, still pushing its way to the surface after all this time. And it raises an unsettling thought. If an ecosystem can survive undetected for over 1 million years inside a glacier on our own planet, sealed just beneath the ice the whole time, what else might be surviving right now, in the dark, in places we've simply never thought to look? Somewhere under the frozen crust of a distant moon, something might already be doing exactly the same thing. Subscribe for more stories like this.